All right, everybody, this is another video from an interview that Brett Cooper did talking about some of the stuff that went on in Hollywood. We've done a couple of these already. Just wanted to follow up with another, clip from her speaking about this because the last one we did was kind of short. So I just wanted to give, it a little bit more context and see what she had to say. Looks like she's going to talk a little bit more about it's titled "The Disgusting Truth About the Creeps in Hollywood." So let's see a little bit more about what she has to say. But it's really interesting because I think just today it got released that allegedly Jay-Z now is accused of apparently, sexually molesting, raping, whatever the charges. I don't know. An underage girl. I think it's a child at 13, I think the age was. Back about 20 years ago at I believe it was a P. Diddy party. So it looks like there's going to be more continuing to unfold with all of this. And especially as we go into 2025 and change, political administrations, it's likely that a lot of this stuff will come out under Trump because I think he already, claimed that he was going to be releasing some stuff with maybe Epstein and some other sealed government documents that the public, knows are conspiracies, but we have yet to get that information because the government is keeping it from us. So it looks like, the new administration may be releasing a lot of stuff about these things, and something or some stuff from the Diddy case might come out as well. We don't know. Well, especially when, it goes through the trial process. Eventually, when the case is over, that will become public record. So at some point, we will know whether or not that's true. But Jay-Z, I think he came out and he rebutted that, saying that he did not do that. It was a lie, and that maybe he's going to prove it or something like that. I'm not sure. I saw something quick online, but it looks like he's denying the accusations and saying that they're false. So I guess we're going to find out whether or not that is the case. Everybody, no matter who you are, no matter what crime you committed, does deserve a fair trial, does deserve to be, have a jury of their peers evaluate their case and determine whether or not they're guilty. That is the law, and that's built into our Constitution, and every American has that right. So regardless of whether or not he is guilty, he still has the right to go through a trial. So we're going to find out whether or not it's true. But that's the beautiful thing about the court cases. Everything will come to light eventually. And with our trial system in this country, the people will find out the truth one way or another. Everybody will be given the opportunity to present all the facts and let the chips fall where they may. So, all these people who are involved in this type of stuff, and it seems like a lot of people in Hollywood are over the last few decades, all that stuff will eventually come to light. And, that's the thing too. God teaches us that, eventually all of our sins will come to light. Eventually the things that we do wrong will be brought to the surface, and the world will, be able to view those things. And if not the world, God definitely. God sees all of our sins. God sees everything that we do wrong. So you can't hide your sins from God. Eventually, you will be judged for them. But you could also be judged for them in this life before you leave. And that's, it looks like that's kind of what's happening here with some of these people. So I kind of just want to jump right into it, see what you have to say, and we'll go from there.
You worked in Hollywood as a child actor.
Yes.
What did you make about the recent news on Nickelodeon and
Yeah.
Quiet on Set and all of that?
None of it surprises me at all. I feel very, very lucky because I had a great experience. But I had a fantastic experience because I had a mother that was literally a shark, who was I cannot say enough good things about her, who was so engaged in every part of my upbringing and my career, not as a momager, but as a mother. Someone who knew that this industry had the reputation that it did. She already knew about the casting couch. She knew about child actors and the drug usage and the scandals. She was not interested in me doing any of that. But I loved it. Like, I lived for performing. That's all I wanted to do. And so she saw that in me and wanted to be able to support that. And I've seen a lot of comments actually of people saying, if your mom knew things about the industry, why did she let you move to LA to audition? Why did she take you to New York so that you could go audition for Broadway shows? I just want to take this opportunity to answer it. My brother died when I was 5 years old. He was 17. He was an artist, super, super creative. And up until that point, my mom had kind of tried not to put my brothers in a box, but she was like, it was a more of a one size fits all parenting approach. Um, my brother who died is a twin. And so she kind of put the twins together, and she was dealing with her failing marriage with my father, and that kind of took priority over the kids. And after he died, she made a conscious decision with me that she was going to completely change that. She was like, I'm not going to prioritize this marriage that is, there is no future, really. She had already kind of decided, both of them had decided that. I'm going to put this child first. And then one thing that she said is, if I knew that David was going to die at 17 years old and he had all of these ambitions and things that he wanted to accomplish, what would I have done to make sure that he got those opportunities, that he got to enjoy every aspect of that? And so that's why we did it, because she saw that I loved it. I came alive when I was on stage. A lot of things in my family, I think, really shut me down. Losing my brother at a young age, my parents' relationship obviously took a major turn for the worse after he died. My brothers really kind of went off the deep end in a lot of ways as well. I became very closed off, suppressed. I would literally hide in kitchen cabinets when people would come over because I didn't want to speak. That all went away when I got on stage and was performing. And so she wanted to keep that up as much as possible because that was my one outlet. So anyway, that's kind of the backstory of how I ended up there and why she was willing to put me in those situations. And
So that's interesting. I always say to parents, definitely be aware, be cautious of this industry. Hollywood is, a weird place. There's a lot of, crazy stuff that goes on there. It's not like the rest of the world. It's not like, and when I say Hollywood, I really mean the entertainment industry as a whole. It's not like the rest of the world. It's not like people who work typical blue collar or white collar jobs. It's a very strange place where people, um, everything's very emotion based and almost nothing is logic based. Almost nothing is, even the way that those businesses make money, the film industry. Sometimes production companies will put out, especially the big ones that can afford to do this, they'll put out a bunch of movies and they'll put out one blockbuster movie, and it's not good, but they know it's going to make a lot of money. It's the cash cow. And that's going to fund all the other smaller projects that are better films. The scripts are better, the actors are quality actors, and the whole team, the director, everybody involved is going to make a really good, high quality cinematic film. But it's not going to get nearly as much money as a big production would. So they'll almost take a loss on better movies that are better, quality wise, and not care because they have the bigger movies that make the money. And as long as they can keep, throwing out a few of those each year, that'll cover all of their expenses. That'll allow them to continue operations. And then they can make these smaller or even more artistic films, that are more about the art of the film than the, something big like a Marvel movie with a bunch of superhero characters. There's no real art in that. It's just, very trendy, very current, and just very corporatized. Um, but the industry is weird, man. They'll lose tons of money on movies, and they don't care. They'll put a movie out that they know is going to get a lot of backlash, a lot of people being upset with them, and they don't care. They'll do it, and they'll go to their award ceremonies and they'll celebrate the movie. And it could have tanked in the box office, but it could win awards. It's so strange. It's such an interesting industry, and it's really not based on logic that much. Budgets constantly change. A movie gets budgeted for one thing, and then halfway through the production, they need to either increase the budget or whatever, scrap the project. And it happens often. It's just one of those weird industries where every time you make a movie, you're almost lucky if you get to the end of the movie and get it released into theaters or one of these streaming apps. Up until that point where you get the first box office weekend, you basically don't even know if this thing is going to be a success at all, and that's not like other businesses. I mean, yeah, there's always that risk of, your business failing, but typically if you have a traditional business and you have a customer base, you can keep tapping into that customer base for repeat business. And then you kind of gauge what it is that your business is able to accomplish, financially and build a growth plan on that. The entertainment industry is so different. You really don't know. And there's no like there's definitely fan bases and loyal customer bases, but it's not like a recurring customer base that you personally directly can tap into. From the movie, from the people who create the movie. The streaming apps, yeah, they have subscribers, so that's a direct customer base and other things like that. But the production companies that are involved in these projects, they don't actually have a lot of communication with their end result customer that sits and watches their product, which is probably one of the biggest things that's wrong with the industry that really needs to change. Because if they did, I think it would change the game. And in fact, Angel Studios, that comes to mind as an example, they're one of the few people who get this. They started crowdfunding their movies and they set up, you know, email collection and things like that, social media where people can follow them. They're building a direct route to their customer base, the final end result, people who are going to watch their product, and they're letting them engage with their dollars, with their votes, with their opinions. That's probably the future of movies and entertainment as a whole, in every aspect, is getting a direct line of communication to your customer base. But anyway, the industry is really a strange industry. Like I said, it's built on, a weird philosophy, and it kind of semi works. But it's not, it has a lot of flaws. Um, but it's interesting that she said what she said about her mom. The first thing that would come to mind is, well, if your mom knew all this stuff about the industry, because typically what happens is these children, have these horrible stories because their parents brought them to the industry, either not knowing the truth about it or not caring. But she said it right out of the gate. Her mom knew that, you know, she knew all the details of the industry, casting couch, all these really crazy things, and you're bringing your child into that. It does, beg the question, why would you do that to your child? But with her response, I could kind of understand. She was going through a difficult divorce. She lost a child. Maybe she felt she just didn't want to do things wrong by this child, and she wanted to, make her happy and give her everything she could, to be successful in life, give her the foundation, the building blocks to, get to that next level in her life when she gets older. So, and also it's an opportunity for them to bond together. I'm sure a lot of auditions she took her on and things like that, they got to spend a lot of quality time together. And, she got to build a relationship with her daughter. And, it seemed to have worked out because her daughter really praises her at this point. So maybe she did make the right decision. So it's not like it's a blanket. No, every single person who wants to go into Hollywood or the entertainment industry as a whole should not do it because it's evil. And sometimes I see people saying that on social media. There's no blanket cookie cutter solution for everybody. For most things, maybe like almost all things. It kind of is on a case by case basis. And in this case, her mom probably made the right move because she didn't get wrapped up in all that crazy stuff in Hollywood where she built, ended up getting traumatized, and she built a little bit of a career for herself here on the Daily Wire, doing what she does now. And, she used the skills that she learned from being a childhood actor. So it might have worked out in her favor. It's not the same for everybody. Every case is different. But that's interesting that she said that and laid it out, because that was something I would have asked too. If you knew all this, why would you subject your child to this? But let's see what she has to say.
So then back to the point, I knew all of that growing up. I knew that it was happening. I had experiences, nothing like on, why am I blanking? Quiet on Set. I was about to say After Dark. Quiet on Set. Jeanette McCurdy wrote her fantastic book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, about her very abusive mother, momager, and her experience with Dan Schneider. She didn't name in her book. So when I read her book, I remember getting to the end of her book, literally just like crying, because I was like,
did you ever interact with Dan Schneider?
No. I auditioned for some of his projects. I don't know if I was ever in the room with him. I mean, it was literally, he was so prolific in Hollywood still at the time when I was coming up, that at least once a week there would be, I could probably go back in my old email now and, Untitled Dan Schneider Project, Untitled Dan Schneider Project. My mom already knew about that reputation. It was so commonplace that he was a creep that I think I might have auditioned for a couple of them, but she drew a line in the sand and said, that guy's a weirdo. She's not going out for any of those projects. She's not going to go work at Nickelodeon. I desperately wanted to be on the modern iteration of Boy Meets World, which is called Girl Meets World. which obviously catapulted Rowan Blanchard and Sabrina Carpenter to fame. Desperately wanted it. And so I like fought with my mom. I was like, please let me go out for this. Please let me go out for this. She did not want me on Disney Channel, did not want me on Nickelodeon because she knew that those children's networks were so filled with creeps. And I ended up doing one children's show at a different network. And that is
That's pretty funny, actually. I didn't know she was that young. So, if some of you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you would remember a show called Boy Meets World, which was a big, young sitcom back in those days. I mean, the actors who acted in them now, they're in like their mid to late 40s, I think. Um, so that was a big show back in the day, especially in the TGI Friday lineup. If anybody remembers TGI Friday, and it was like one of the top rated, top viewed shows at that time. The spinoff that came out just maybe a few years ago was a show called The Girl Meets World, and it had some of the same cast from the original series in it. And there was like the teenage daughter of the guy who was in the original show, and he's all grown up and has kids of his own. Um, so that was the concept, I think. It's like his kid's life now, kind of, a second generation. And I guess it ran for a few seasons. I don't know, but I had no idea she was that young, that she was auditioning, or at least wanted to be auditioning for the role of the daughter. It's funny because yeah, I didn't realize like she's that young, but good for her having like a big following and a show on the Daily Wire, a big conservative media outlet. To be so young, she must be in her like early 20s, I guess. I don't know, but it's pretty funny like when you grew up with something and then the second generation uh comes out, decades later, and the younger generation grows up with that as their show, not really knowing much about the first version. There was a show years ago in the 80s called Cheers, and that was a show about a bar, a bunch of people hanging out at a bar in the 80s. And um, it was a spin-off show from that called Frasier with Kelsey Grammer. And there's a third generation spin-off of that show right now that's streaming on like one of the streaming apps, maybe Paramount Plus or something. And it's the third generation of Frasier with the same character. So imagine that, Kelsey Grammer playing the same role for like 4 decades. So crazy how we've come to this point in society where nobody creates anything new. And don't get me wrong, that those shows were good, and I think the new ones just probably as good as well. Um, but no one really creates anything new anymore. Everything is just reboots and spinoffs because the good stuff was made back then. Now there's too much nonsense in Hollywood, catering to, certain people, and trying to make sure everything's perfectly balanced and inclusive and all that stuff. And it just kind of gets in the way of the art of the project, the story, and, everything kind of flowing a little bit freer and people ad-libbing and, really being into the character. It's all very like orchestrated and corporatized today. But yeah, it's pretty funny how like some of this stuff has come full circle from decades ago. So let's continue to see what she has to say.
where my bad experience was. And it's so predictable because it's the men who choose to work with children, with young girls.
What happened?
It was after the show had ended. And I told the story with Jordan, and I got a call from my mom. She was like, "You missed an important component of the story." So I can actually share that here. It was the writer on the show. And he had wanted to connect with me and another girl who were on the show. And, he was always writing new things, and I'm going to create another show. In Hollywood, it's very normal, oh, let's go have coffee or lunch with this, person who could get you this next job. It's always like, what's going to get me that next job? So he had reached out to this girl who was a co-star on the show with me, who was a very, very good friend of mine at the time. And her mom reached out to mine. I think he had mentioned something about, oh, I'd love to see Brett as well. So her mom reached out to mine and said, hey, Brett's friend is going to go meet up with this guy. Would Brett like to go and connect with him? And, it'd be great. He wants to see her. And so we ended up going to the Griffith Observatory. And this woman told my mom, I'm going to be with them the entire time. I'm going to watch them. Don't worry. I'll be the parent in the room. My mom said, okay, great. Last time she ever trusted anybody in that regard. And so my mom dropped me off. I went up there. Her mother was nowhere in sight.
Burnout. We all experience it at some point. It's so important to me that I've actually been working on it in therapy. In fact, with the help of
watched from the car, basically. Walked around the Griffith Observatory. This man immediately launches into his lesbian fantasies that he has with me and this other girl at 14 years old. Again, the creator and writer of a children's show. And I get immediately very, very weirded out. We're walking. There's this part in the Griffith Observatory where you can go and you see what your weight would be if you're out, on the moon or in space. And so we went and stood on this, and he looked at my friend and said, I want to know how much you weigh with your clothes off. It's stuff like that. And so then we finally got out of the museum. He's told us about our lesbian fantasies, whatever. We're walking back towards the restaurant, and he sticks his hand in our back pockets, as he's walking like this. And I immediately am just absolutely, get off of me. My friend shoots me a look don't screw this up for me. Don't say anything. So I don't. So we just keep walking. Get back to the car. Whatever. I immediately, dropped off at my house. I talked to my mom. This is so weird. I never want to be around this man again. This was so uncomfortable, so creepy. My mom calls her mom. Her mom admits that she knew. That's why she wanted me there, because I would be a buffer. She said, oh, we know that he's weird. We've gotten very weird vibes. I didn't want her to be alone with him, so we wanted Brett to be there. So she knew. But she was so desperate to have her daughter, and her daughter was so desperate, I don't know if it was coming from her or coming from her mother, to be in this room and not rock the boat because she desperately wanted a new show, a new audition, a new job, that she was willing to take it and be in that space and then put another child in that situation. And that was normal. And this guy would show up he was very enmeshed in my friend group for a long time because he just worked with all these young people. Would show up to teenage birthday parties where maybe an acting teacher or somebody would drop by and drop a present. Hey, happy birthday. Whoever your name is, have a great party, whatever. This guy would come, stay until 2 a.m. with 16 and 17-year-olds who are obviously getting drunk and getting high, whatever teenage actors are doing. Painted portraits of child actors was a whole thing on his social media. I was just very, very weird. And so it's nothing compared to what so many have been through. But even in my limited experience, even with a mother that was so careful, that I still had that. And I think that I was in an interesting position because I loved acting and I loved my career and I loved working, but my mom had done a very good job kind of saying, this is not your whole identity. This isn't your whole life. You never have to do anything you're not comfortable with. Acting is fun. It should always be fun. It should be a hobby. You should never cross any lines that you're not willing to cross for that. And I don't think that was instilled in my peers. So my friend who was, shot me that death stare. Don't say anything about him touching my butt. And this man groping a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, I think she was a year older than me. I didn't have that. I didn't care. Who cares if he doesn't like me? And again, my mom knew all of this going into it. She put me in self-defense against sexual assault, women's self-defense against sexual assault. Starting at age 11 or 12, I was fighting literally in rape scenarios, date rape situations, would do that twice a week, was in private lessons, did that for probably 7 years. And I think that was a huge part of it. Martial arts are just, I think, so important for both men and women, but especially young girls. I think it's so underrated because the confidence that I had because of that, because I knew how to defend myself, because one of the first things that you learn is how to say no and how to use your voice and understanding that where you're being touched, that's not right. I had that and she didn't.
Yeah. And that's the thing, the, producers and the people in Hollywood, they use that desperation for wanting to be in a movie or a TV show or just be famous in general. They use that against you to get you to do things that you don't want to do. And it's a cycle that just really never ends. It starts with them. They groom them as children. And then that works its way into them being teenagers and adults in movies and all these things. That's why you kind of not always, but in many occasions you see um, women, especially in Hollywood, they progress. They go from a children's show and then they break out of that like Disney mold where they're supposed to be young and innocent on camera. And right when they're in their early 20s, they're doing some sort of raunchy movie where it's either a nude scene or a sex scene or something. And it's like their rite of passage way of breaking out of the world seeing them as a child and now seeing them as an adult. But for some reason, they think that they have to be in those vulnerable positions in order to reinvent themselves, rather than just having a natural evolution of their career, which could carry them through life because you're literally just playing somebody at each different stage of your life. When you get old, you just play an old person in movies, you play the grandparent or whatever. They don't let that natural progression happen. And it really starts with the childhood actors. It actually starts with the parents of them. If the parents would all, you know, band together, and it's funny, actually, it's kind of ironic that there's a union for just about everything in Hollywood. I mean, literally to the point where there's a union for like the people who, do the most basic stuff, lighting work, uh, hold the microphones, different things of that nature. There's unions for everything. There's no union for the parents of the children. There should be. There should be a union for the parents of the children to kind of band together and agree and disagree on what they will and will not allow their children to do. But regardless of whether or not there's a union for it, the parents have this ability to do that anyway. They should band together and decide we're not letting our child do certain things. The more parents that stand up for their kids, the more Hollywood will have to tailor what they get to what the parents want and demand. The only reason they get away with what they get away with now is because they know that the parents and the children are so desperate for fame. They use that as leverage against them and sell them that, shiny object. Here, do what we say, and we'll give you everything your heart desires. Truth is, most people that go into the entertainment industry really don't become mega successful. There's a very small few population that actually become huge stars and in movies and TV shows and have long careers in the industry. Out of the amount of people that actually go out there and pursue it, the number of ones that become super successful is very small. So it starts with the parents. If more parents would actually take the time to, teach their children what things to look out for, but also be there actively protecting them from these threats, I guarantee you Hollywood would have no choice but to, tailor everything to what the parents decide. So, it's really an important lesson, and it's nice to see that someone in Hollywood, their parent actually cared enough to, protect them from the dangers of that world.
I don't, and that's why I was, put in those classes. So my mom was like, you're going into rooms with people that I don't know. You're being brought in by a casting director to go into a room for 15 minutes and do a scene. I have no idea what they're doing to you in there. You need to know, again, what is appropriate and what's not.
Interesting, this sort of line that is kind of similar to helicopter parenting, but done in a empowered, safe way that's aiming to try and give you as much independence and security as possible.
It was the foundation that was more of not a helicopter, but like, I'm going to be very, very careful so that then you can go out and do whatever you want. I know.
Similar to the flirting and how to detect whether or not someone likes you. It's the subtle differences. It's the deftness, right? Yes. It's the nuance that's really, really important in how you do this. The wildest thing about that story is the complicity of both the girl and the mother. I
did not care when they were called on it. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
so it's
he's
just
really
kind of
weird.
The price of doing business.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that in Hollywood that I think that's one of the reasons why I made, a conscious decision when I was in college that I was like, I don't think this is for me, because there's a big price. They ask for your everything. They ask for you to be complicit in whatever they want to do. They ask for you to give up your life and your stability and your control over your personal life. I mean, at the drop of a hat, you need to fly to Vancouver and shoot this and whatever. They don't care about your personal life, which is fine. It's an industry. They need to, film things when they need to film things and where they need to film things. But I was not a person that was willing to give all of that. I was also not willing to sacrifice my values. This kind of goes back to the politics stuff. I would get scripts constantly. I would look at the characters that I'm playing. I would read the script in its entirety if I was, got a movie script. And I would sit down and I would dissect what are they trying to tell audiences with this story, and I would deeply disagree with it. I would hate what my character was being used to convey. And you have no control over that because you're just a shell. That's your job.
All right. Well, that was pretty interesting to see her take and some of her experiences in the industry, especially as a childhood actor. Um, it's sad to see because you see that a lot. I say it often on this. Every time I see these videos, it is sad to see that like it's the same story over and over again, just different people going through the same exact thing. And it's unfortunate that the parents, a lot of times, it's like the same thing as a dad being super aggressive with his son to, be good at a sport, baseball, football, whatever. And so much so that it like fractures the relationship with the child and the father, all because he's trying to live a dream that he wish he fulfilled in his own life through his child. And oftentimes that really does hurt the relationship between them long term. And the odds of that person even fulfilling that dream is very slim. So it costs the parent, the father, and the son everything. And the gain is almost nothing because it typically doesn't really even turn out that way. The only time it does is when the child actually wants that same dream. So it's sad when you see the same thing happen. And I guess it's for sports, it's typically men. They put that type of pressure on their sons. For women and moms, it tends to be things of the arts, the entertainment industry in particular, where they put that type of pressure on their children. And they almost kind of sell them into that industry for fame and fortune and all that stuff. And a lot of times it backfires. A lot of times it happens in the way that she explained. That one girl who was a childhood actor, she was on some shows, I think Disney and stuff like that, wrote a book saying she's glad her mom is dead. I mean, that is heartbreaking that her mom was so aggressively pushing her into that industry that it did eventually happen for her, but it cost her and her mother her relationship. And then on top of that, she writes a book professing to the world that her mom was this horrible person who, basically ruined her life getting into that industry and essentially kind of selling her into some form, some level of trafficking. Um, Even though she got paid for it and stuff, it still was, pushing her into this industry where she had traumatic experiences. And yeah, it's sad to see. It's sad to see that so many parents do this to their children, all because they're either trying to, get them to be rich so that they can mooch off them, or they just want them to fulfill a dream that they wish they were able to fulfill. And it happens a lot. I think this was actually even Judy Garland's story. I think her mother was a not failed, but she was hoping to be famous actress or dancer or something, and she pushed her daughter into it. And then Judy Garland became, this mega famous person, but she had a really tough life, where she was abused, she was molested, all kinds of horrible things happened to her, and then she had, you know, um, just a horrible adulthood that eventually led to her passing away. And I think she smoked and drank her whole life to cope with that. Um, so yeah, it's sad to see, but that was stuff was happening in Hollywood literally forever. I mean, Judy Garland was an actress. She was the little girl in The Wizard of Oz. I was thinking of It's a Wonderful Life for a moment. The Wizard of Oz. She was the little girl. She was Dorothy, and that was in 1937 or 39 that movie came out. So this type of stuff has been happening in Hollywood for literally ever. And, people have only really been making movies legitimately since the early 1900s. So it's something that really only existed in the 1900s and now the 2000s. This is something new that never existed before that. So it's still fairly new when you look at the landscape of history. But for almost that whole time, as soon as they started commercializing and corporatizing the art of film uh, into a cinematic experience that could make money from people, is probably just about as soon as they started doing that type of stuff. In fact, I'm pretty sure it happened even before with vaudeville and the theater industry doing the same thing to children. So it's very sad to see the parents, uh, you know, are willing to sacrifice their children like this. um, Fame is not worth that. There's nothing wrong with trying to pursue a dream, but it's not worth your life. So anyway, it was nice to see what you had to say in this other clip. And that's it for this video. If you want to, like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff that helps promote, and grow the channel. But most importantly, put stuff in the comments. Let me know what you guys are looking for. Let me know what your responses to these videos. If you want to add any commentary, we could definitely talk about it. And yeah, just, tell me what you want to see in the future. We're going to do a lot of different things on this channel, a lot of different topics we're going to cover. Obviously, as we go into the new year and into January, we're going to probably talk a lot about the election and about, the new presidency coming in and politics in general. But we're going to talk about a lot of other things on this channel too. That's why I try to break it up with entertainment pieces and things like that in between, just to not make it all one-sided. So let me know if there's things that you want me to cover and to do videos on. Put it in the comments. And that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody, I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son. And it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. We highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now. And like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early, and you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms, Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories. Available right now, many different items on our storefront. If you can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall, 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throw in your own, occasion, you can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned. But it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produced. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies. and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag, and it says free, and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two, and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post, and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future, and I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.